thank everyone for spending that special thing called time of yours to be here with us. We really appreciate that, and trust me, we do not take it for granted for you being here. We thank you so much. Our engineer secretary is here. We'll leave the platform for her to take us through the various protocols, and then we can hand over the platform to our engineer resource person, and then we can get the program started. So, engineer secretary, please, the platform is for you now. Kindly take us through.
Okay, thank you so much, Engineer Chair. Good evening, engineers, once again. Please, can someone give us the opening prayer, please? A volunteer should please give us the opening prayer. Please, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So please, an opening prayer by a volunteer, please. Anyone at all?
Okay, let's pray.
All right.
Most gracious Lord, so we pray. Most gracious Lord, we thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for this day. And we thank you for the gathering of your sons. We pray that through this meeting, make our hearts receptive. Open our minds to whatever discussion we are about to hold today. Come, take your presence in this meeting. Make whatever decision we make, whatever discussion we have, be fruitful and be decisions and discussions that promote the engineering practice and also promote the impact of our engineering practice in society and the nation as a whole. We believe that as you take your presence in this meeting, it's going to be successful, it's going to be fruitful, and it's going to bear more impact. These are many things we ask. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. So we go straight to the program for the day. Once again, I welcome everyone to this wonderful session. And we look forward to having a great time with our resource person this evening. The topic for our meeting program today, it's on Ghana's toxic engineering blueprints, God, greed, and politics. I just want to give a brief profile of the resource person, who is no new person to us as far as GHIA is concerned, in the person of Engineer Michael K.L. Dede. He is a registered mechanical engineer and an OHS professional, that's occupational health and safety professional, with over 28 years of combined experience in mining. So just imagine the kind of knowledge this kind of person has to share with us this evening. And then his field of experience spans across power plant construction and downstream petroleum industries. He also has experience working about 5 years working experience with international companies and professionals of diverse cultural backgrounds. He is a fellow of the GHIA and a former chair of the programs and conference committee, International Affairs Committee, Mechanical Technical Division, and then the vice president of the GHIA. Without much ado, please help me welcome Engineer Michael K. Dede to take over the platform for the day. Engineer, welcome. Please, the platform is yours. Engineer Mike. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you now.
We can. All right. Okay.
Yeah, you can be heard.
Okay.
So let me share my screen now.
All right.
Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, I can see.
Yes, I can also see.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Good evening to everyone, and thanks for sharing your time with us, like the chair and secretary have said. Today's topic, as you can clearly see, is Ghana's toxic engineering blueprint, God, greed, and politics. As I've stated down there, good engineering practice is a prerequisite for increased productivity and wealth creation for all nations. All too often, however, Ghanaian engineering practitioners focuses on technical outputs while ignoring the human cost. So I ask the question, did your work or our work lift Ghanaians up or leave them worse off? Before I continue, I'll say there's a disclaimer. All opinions expressed during this presentation are mine and mine only, and should not be attributed to anyone else. The objective of this presentation and the topic itself. In this presentation, I will argue that Ghana has a toxic environment which makes engineering solutions unnecessarily expensive and Ghana uncompetitive. I will also submit that unless the GHIE and engineering practitioners challenge the toxic ecosystem, we will not be able to fulfill the objectives as stated in Article 3 of the Ghana Institute of Engineering Constitution. I will also suggest collective and individual actions to cure the toxic environment. I will try as much as possible to support my arguments with events and outcomes from our lived experiences as Ghanaians. But just to remind all of us, Article 3.1 of the Constitution states as such, the objective of the institution is to promote and advance the science and practice of engineering to the benefit of society in Ghana, in Africa, and globally. So in the context of this objective, we need to be asking ourselves, how has the Ghanaian society benefited from the practice of engineering and at what cost? So it is within this context that I'm going to make this presentation. As has become typical of all of us, we started this meeting with a prayer. And I want to begin in that context, God. In Ghana, Christians and Muslim prayers have been formalized at all public gatherings, including workplace meetings and boardroom meetings. This practice clearly defies Articles 21, 1C, and 56 of the Constitution of Ghana. We once had a president who banned traditional prayers in this country, and Christians and Muslims were happy. But the question we need to ask ourselves is, are we not defying our Constitution? And why do we think we need to begin meetings and boardrooms with prayers? Immediately we are finished praying, then the next thing we resort to is greed. So like I say, once the prayers are over, decisions and actions are informed by the greed of those around the table. Personal interests are then packaged and sold as public interest. Currently, within the last 1.5 years, the mining lease for Damai ended. And within 2 weeks, for instance, the mine was packaged and sold to another person. As Ghanaians, a lot of people kept quiet. I personally observed how Newmont sold its mine to the current owners. And it took them no less than 6 months because they opened up the process, invited bidders to come and review submit their proposals, ask questions, come and review their financials, come to visit the mine site, do inspection, verify things for themselves. That process took over 6 months. And here we are in a country, a mine lease is due, and within 2 weeks, we say we have selected someone and given the mine to that person. We need to be careful as a country, and we need to be mindful of the message we are sending to everybody else. So we have God, we begin, and I'm sure all those meetings and the bidding and processes, we began with God. And then we went into greed. And then the politics. Our public service is politically divided and professionals are not exempt. Meritocracy has been lost. And I'll cite a typical example. When the current CEO of VRE was appointed, some VRE staff released a statement to the effect that he was MPP and therefore unsuitable. And we see this running through a lot of public office. Once a new political party wins power, chief executives and all manner of people are changed. Is that the way we should run this country? How does it impact on engineering practice and other professional practices? But because we are engineers here, I want to focus on engineering practice. And for me, that is the toxic engineering blueprint from which we operate, or the toxic environment from which we operate. And if we are not bold enough to talk about it, then we cannot implement or achieve the objectives of the Ghana Institution of Engineering itself, which we seek to say will promote the best of engineering practice to our society. So I'll begin to look at some of the engineering challenges, and I'll begin with our own education at the universities. Currently, you ask yourself, what is the faculty-student ratio? Because good education must begin with certain basic norms. Your faculty, your lecturer to student ratio. What are they on campus today? Are they within international remits or outside of it? Will that lead to good engineering education? Our universities claim autonomy because they are established by a charter, and that charter gives them autonomy. But are they truly implementing what the autonomy requires them to do? And one of them should be the standards by which people are trained. We are overcrowding in hostels and lecture theaters. So if students don't get to the lecture theater early, they may not get a place to sit. They have to stick their heads through windows. Is that what we should be accepting? And in this case, for engineering training. Infrastructure planning and development. Again, I'm speaking in the context of engineers. So if you go to our campuses today, compare infrastructure, and I'm talking here about the three public universities specifically: University of Science and Technology, University of Ghana, University of Cape Coast. But more importantly, University of Science and Technology. Compare infrastructure from the 1940s and 60s to structures in the 1990s and 2000s on our campuses. The kind of finish you see on those structures, compare them and ask yourself whether engineering practice has improved or declined in this country. And if the universities are supposed to be centers of excellence, then the practice of engineering on the campus itself must be excellent. We cannot expect that we do something, we train students on campus and tell them this is the best of engineering practice, but what we do on campus itself is not excellence. We don't display excellence. Now, for KNUST, again, I ask, how has KNUST influenced its surrounding communities? Aiduase, Kote, Boidi, Bonso, Emina, etc. Comparatively, if you look at all three of these universities, you realize that the communities surrounding them are slums. And for me particularly, I ask about KNUST, because that is where we have people from all the built environments who are trained: civil engineers, planners, architects, surveyors, natural resources people, everybody that you can think about in the building environment, air conditioning experts, mechanical people. So why should the community that surrounds such a university be a slum? We have not influenced that community. So for me, again, it's a challenge that we need to confront because our university should be centers of excellence. And therefore, they must be able to influence the societies around them. When we come to power generation and distribution, ECG and NEDCO system losses alone between 25 and 40% as of December 2024 per their own reports. And you ask yourself, for a nation that is in power crisis, that needs a lot of power, why should we generate power and lose between 25 and 40% of that power? Is that good engineering practice? How have we as engineers either participated in these losses or otherwise? When we come to Ghana's Osagifo power badge, which was procured by GNPC and Mr. Chacho Chikata between around 1999, that badge eventually was left to rot. A badge we paid over $110 million for. We did not get value for money out of that badge. And even when it was scrapped, GNPC didn't know who scrapped it because the people who scrapped it did it without authorization. And you ask yourself, how do we run a country like this? We went for a strategic reserve plant, and VRA went for a strategic reserve plant when Dr. Charles Rekubobe was the CEO. What happened to that power badge? It hardly generated power, and we had to send it back. Paid millions of dollars for it. Nothing happened. And that is the kind of engineering that we are having in this country. Gridco transmission losses are fairly acceptable. They are about 3.8%, and that compares favorably to international standards. So that is a good one for Gridco. But when we go to ECG, that is a no-no. The supply of meters as ECG is riddled with so much political influence, and you wonder, what are we getting for that? So that some of the losses that ECG faces are sometimes because certain meters that were procured were incompatible, or somebody has hijacked and decided to switch off certain things. So at a certain point, ECG could not bill and had to now negotiate behind the scenes with people to be able to allow them to bill and collect revenue. I mean, it's ridiculous, the kind of things that are happening within this country. And I think that for us as engineering practitioners, we should not sit on the side and say we are focusing on our own technical work and leave the impact, the economic impact, to be borne by all Ghanaians. Transportation, rail, road, and air. So I see the GHI verdict. Coincidentally, as I was preparing this paper, the GHI released what we call the infrastructure grades, or the infrastructure scorecard, National Infrastructure Scorecard report, which I thought was just timely. And in doing that assessment, the GHIE has these levels of grading, A, B, C, D, E. And this was the grading that was used. And based on that, aviation sector scored a C3. Road sector scored an E1. And the rail sector scored an E1. I want to focus on these three because that's where I am focusing my presentation on. But that's the grade that was this infrastructure's score, the GHI assessment. I think that was a fair assessment of the infrastructure. I will not challenge that. Now, you look at the rail, and the one on the left, existing prior to 2000, was the infrastructure that was largely left by the colonial authorities. We have not added much. Until recently, when we decided to add massively from Tema to Impakadan, which at the moment has no traffic. And then we have existing traffic for Kawaso to Takwa, to Takrade, and Takwa to Takrade. But the government felt that it was more important to develop a new route where they were now even exploring the market. So we spent millions of dollars to build a new rail line that is not moving anything at the moment. When we could have spent either less or the same amount to ensure that we redevelop the Awaso to Takoradi and Takwa to Takoradi route, which would have lifted bauxite and manganese. Because haulage by road is destroying our roads consistently. Every time we have repaired those roads, they've gotten destroyed by haulage trucks. But here we are, engineers were excited to be doing new construction work without questioning the cost to the Ghanaian taxpayer. And I think that we as engineers need to look beyond the technical work we are doing and asking about the benefit to the larger society if we want to impact society. So for me, this is something I'm just picking from the real development. Then we go to road construction in Ghana. Contractors and consultants behave as though they are doing us a favor rather than a job for which they are being paid. And I'll take the N1 as a typical example. And the N1 begins from Aflao all the way to Elugu. From Aflao all the way to Elugu. And the N1 is not just a trunk road, but it is an international highway. For anyone who has traveled on the N1 in the last few years, ask yourself if that is the way construction should be done in this country, or for that matter, any other country, because we claim to be professionals. But if you look at the way construction is being done along that whole road, I mean, it's sad. We do not have dust control, effective dust control. Road signages are poor. There are no motorable alternatives. And traffic management is terrible. So for a journey that could end in 3 hours from Accra to Takoradi, you have to spend no less than 6 hours on that road, simply because a contractor and a consultant have decided to construct the road anyhow they choose. But if you go to any developed country, in this practice of road building, they provide motorable alternatives. Dust is controlled, and traffic management is effective. But here we are claiming to be of international character, but what we do here locally doesn't merit. And we need to begin to ask ourselves the essential questions as engineers and professionals for that matter. We shouldn't just look on and say, oh, look, it's fine. It doesn't matter. And then when the road is done, we say, oh, hooray, the road has been built and we are proud of it. But the process which we constructed the road will lead people to sickness. The dust inhalations that have gone on, the accidents that have gone on, can we bring all those people back? No. So public safety and environmental concerns are neglected. So for instance, we are building, government says it wants to build an express route from Accra to Kumasi. And I like the position that our president has taken, the GHIE president has taken, that it is not proper. We have not done environmental impact assessments. We have not done feasibility studies. We don't even know the cost of that project. But government says it has set aside $1.7 billion. On what basis? Why don't we complete the road between Accra, which is being dualized, to Kumasi first? Because at the end of the day, an express route is going to have limited use. The masses are going to continue to use the existing road. So what are we talking about? Is that how we prioritize things? And yet, we have engineers at highways fully supporting this. And they won't tell the minister it is wrong. Do we really need all the interchanges that are being built all over the country? And I say no. If we plan development, space, land use, and space properly, we don't need all the interchanges. So the cost of engineering solutions are becoming very expensive. But we as engineers are happy. Also, we are building this, we have built this. But the question is it cost efficient? Is that the way we should develop our country? And in Ghana now, all the political parties think that building flyovers is an achievement. But we should be looking at the cost of this. If we have planned our cities well, I argue that most of these interchanges will not be needed. Air travel, we have just heard the Minister for Transport announcing that they are going to build 3 extra airports, one in Wa, one in Bolga, and one in Sunyani. But I argue that we have built an airport in Ho, that sees no commercial flights. And yet, we have a government that says it's going to build three new airports. And it's engineering works that are going to be done. When we come to the health sector, I say that the good health is about access to nutrition, potable water, and sanitation, and exercise. It is when these three things have failed that we need to resort to medication and surgery, largely. So if your infrastructure for providing a balanced diet, potable water, and sanitation fail, then you have more sick people. So while consultants, contractors, and engineers may have made millions of cedis from engaging in health, sanitation, and potable water infrastructure projects, citizens continue to wallow in filth, limited access to potable water, and poor access to good health care. So we have built hospitals that have not been completed. So yes, contractors have gotten paid, engineers have been paid all over the country, consultants have been paid. But these things are lying in the bush at the moment. But we are the same people who advise politicians, a section, because we have all become very partisan. So these are the questions we should begin to ask ourselves. Should we become that partisan? Or should we sit back and say professionalism? Can we change the toxic environment? And we have politicians who continue to shout slogans and showcase projects in green books and billboards as achievements, when these projects do not deliver anything to the citizens. Flooding and sanitation. The floods and sanitation crisis that confront Ghana today are engineered disasters, not acts of God. And let's admit it. We simply failed to plan and develop properly. Planners and engineers knew this, but failed to act to protect the public. We are happy to go along with politicians because we have all become either scared of them or seek favors. Those are the only two possibilities here. Now, the difficult question of what can we do? So when I was preparing for this slide, a friend said, look, we have spoken and spoken and spoken several times. What are the recommendations? What can we do? Or what recommendations will I be making? First, we need to admit that engineering societies create wealth. So I cite the example of Japan. It became very significant in the electronics industry, manufacturing, flood control. If you go and read about the Cathedral of Tunnels. Singapore, ethics and sanitation, waste to energy, offshore landfill and underground conveyor. So in Singapore, for instance, waste is no longer moved. A lot of the waste is not moved by trucks. Once you finish from your house, nearest place, it can be dumped into a conveyor underground and it moves to the waste sites. These are things that people have done for themselves. China, rail, power generation, manufacturing. A lot of engineering going on. China is putting up a new power plant. So let me just say here, GHIE, as we sit here today, are members of West African Federation of Engineering Organizations. We are also members of the Federation of African Engineering Organizations and the World Federation Engineering Organization. By this membership, we claim to measure up to the best in the world. The question I ask is, do our outputs confirm that we belong to the global family? Examples of the things, that's the picture on the left is showing you an underground cathedral of tunnels that helps Japan to manage flood. Where they push all the water through this, is over 7 kilometers long. And it just holds the water. And when the flood is over, they pump it out gradually. That's what Japan is doing for itself. China is putting up a new power plant. And that is going to be 3 times the size of the Three Gorges Dam. The Three Gorges Dam generates about 22 gigawatts. This one is estimated to be able to generate close to 60 gigawatts. And that is engineering at its peak. That's what people are doing for themselves. What are we doing here in Ghana for ourselves? These are things that we need to look in order to be impactful to our society. So I begin by saying by GHIE, what can GHIE do? These are my thoughts. GHIE should definitely continue the National Infrastructure Report Card. It is a good point of engagement with society and with government. An impartial report on our infrastructure is a good way to engage. And I think we should make sure that we become more consistent, because the first one we did was in 2016, and we haven't been able to do it until now. And the idea is to do it every 3 years. So we must ensure that we are able to continue with this exercise because it's a very good one. We must ensure Secretariat is more responsive to council and members. Having served on council a number of years and the things I have come to see, I think that we need to make the Secretariat more responsive to council and to members. Members make inquiries and it takes sometimes forever to get a response. Secretariat sometimes thinks that council members must work for them. That is wrong. The Secretariat must work to support the council. Council members are not paid members. They provide advice and work on committees on voluntary basis. So it's the Secretariat that must do the hard work of documents, document control, informing council about the things that have been done. You shouldn't be coming back to council members and asking them for documents. Secretariat must be in full control of documents that are produced by the institution. And we must be able to make them available when demand and request is made. Secretariat must deliver more efficiently than the public service. I know we are influenced a lot by the public service, but our Secretariat should not be working like the public service of Ghana. No. If GHI is to be efficient, to deal with the things that we have to deal with and change the toxic eco environment, we cannot work like the public service. So the Secretariat must be more efficient than it is currently. Commend and critique. The GHI must be ready to commend and critique public engineering works and services. If we look at the way construction is being done along the N1, for instance, we should be able to name and shame and say, look, call out the contractor, call out the consultant and say, look, the way this work is being done is not in the interest of the public. We cannot sit down and simply look on and keep quiet when the public itself has seen that it's not right. How much more an engineering institution like ours? We should be able to name and shame without qualms. We should also be able to call out our own consultants and contractors publicly, whether they are members of the institution or not. We should do that because that is what we represent. And that is what protects the institution and makes us more relevant to our society. We should discipline our members who are found to have misconducted themselves. So if members misconduct themselves, we should not sit and look on. We should hold them accountable and punish them duly. What can we as individual members do? I have heard Dr. Boakye, past president, Engineer Dr. Boakye, advocate strongly that we should join politics and we should engage in active or elective politics. And this was also repeated by the Deputy Minister for Works and Housing, Madame Gisela Tete Agotui, when she attended our conference in Ho. But we need to be careful. The politicians we see today came from this society. They did not come from somewhere else. They came from this society. What informed their attitudes once they got into politics? The fact that we are engineers doesn't mean that when we get into politics, we'll be better than those currently in the political space. We need to ask ourselves whether we have the character required to deal and change society. And that is why if we don't see the institution itself checking its own members, calling out people, then I don't think that simply going into politics is going to change anything. So for those of you or those of us who may want to go into active politics, we should ask the question whether we have the character and the will to change anything. Our workplaces have become politicized. Can we help depoliticize the workplace? Can we say merit is important? So if somebody is an engineer and his work is sought and is promoted, we shouldn't see his political color. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be a member of a political party, but we shouldn't be looking at the person's political coloring. We should look at his work and how he impacts society and say, yes, the person deserves it. So we shouldn't just be calling out people because they belong to a different political party. We should uphold standards and ethics of practice, safety, health, environment, and quality. Are we willing to commit class suicide? When I say class suicide, are we willing to sacrifice almost everything that we have to ensure that the right thing is done? These are tough questions we need to ask of ourselves. We should be working in teams to reduce influence from political appointees. Because if you simply go and listen to a minister and say, oh, minister, yes, then the minister says do this, and because you are scared, you say, yes, we will do it, even when you know it's technically not right. You should call your other team members and say, this is what they mean. You tell the minister the team has looked at what you have proposed and it is not right. we should learn to work in teams. When we work in isolation, it becomes difficult for the politicians to target us and deal with that. But when we work as teams, it becomes more difficult. So let's learn to work as teams. Let our works and service influence society so that society will invite us and say, yes, let's go to the engineers because they can solve our problems. But when we don't respond accordingly, then society is disappointed. At the moment, we have become the topic for everything that goes wrong within the society. We need to look at it more carefully. My conclusions. A few years ago, I said Ghana must be engineered. And I say it again, Ghana must be engineered as a system to be productive. And a typical example is if you look at the human body, it is a completely engineered system. Everything is connected for it to work as a whole. So we cannot do road construction in isolation of where people are staying, in isolation of where health facilities are, in isolation of where people are going to be staying, where people are going to be working. Everything is interconnected. At the moment, when road construction is going on, a lot of services have to be relocated. Power lines, water lines, people have to be evacuated. So if we don't plan our spaces, land use and spatial planning properly, these things are going to repeat themselves. And the cost of road construction is going to be unnecessarily high. So when the right of ways have been acquired, the water sector, the electricity power sector must do their work accordingly and not go and plant poles in the middle of the right of way so that when roads are now going to be constructed or expanded, we now have to pay another allocation for the relocation of all these services. We need to look at these things very carefully. So we need to work together and we need to engineer this country properly. Spatial planning is fundamental to ensuring effectiveness and efficiency of engineering infrastructure. So if land use and spatial planning is not done properly, nothing would work efficiently, and the cost of providing engineering solutions will only escalate. So I said, when engineering practices become the news, it more often than not suggests that society is unhappy. And at the moment, the flooding, sanitation, and all that is a reflection of poor engineering that has gone on due to the toxic environment within which we operate. And I say that when we mix God with greed and politics, we create toxic chaos disguised as professionalism. When procurement of engineering works and services are inspired by greed and influenced by politics, prayers to God will not change the outcome. And for me, these are the things that we need to be mindful of as engineering practitioners. Lastly, or let's move to the next slide. Has my slide changed? Hello?
Yes, please. Yeah, it has changed.
Do you see what I see here? A mindset revolution.
Yes, that's what it's showing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. So I say at this point, the things that have held us back is that a lot of us have resigned ourselves to faith, and we say I can't do anything. So I must work the way things are. I must conform. But I think that is dangerous for all of us as a society. And Steve Biko puts it this way. He says, you cannot liberate people who still believe their chains are normal. So for us as a society and engineering practitioners, we should not accept that the current situation in which we find ourselves is normal. We need a mindset revolution to be able to transform our society, to be able to stand up to authority, to be able to look politicians in the face and say, this is not right. This is not the way it should be done. Professionally, let us do it this way. When I say let us challenge authority, we must learn to do it without people feel insulted. But if there's no other way, then we have to resort to that. But we must find nice ways of telling our bosses that this is not the way it is done. We must learn to talk the way that makes it more acceptable. Maybe not like the way I'm saying it here to us, but hey, we need to learn to speak in a way that makes it more acceptable, but because we want to convince people to toe a certain line of action. Ziegler says fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is yours. Then a man I have really admired, Kwame Nkrumah, says that the secret of life is to have no fear. If you are, like Zig Ziglar said, if you have fear, then it either immobilizes you or it causes you to act, and sometimes you may explode. So Nkrumah says the secret to life is to have no fear. Albert Einstein also says, and that's my last slide, try not to become a person of success, but rather try to become a person of values. The Ghanaian engineering practitioner has a choice. Our actions today will be judged by those who come after us in the society. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. I'll bring my presentation to a close, and I'll invite questions and any suggestions from members on the floor. Chairman, take it from here.
Thank you very much, Engineer Michael Dede. Engineer Secretary, are you here with us? This is information overload.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, Engineer Secretary, please take it up, and whilst some of us process this load of, tons of information we've acquired so far.
Yeah.
So
This is really an overload of information. It's really an overload of information. But one major thing I picked is, as engineers, we should not combine God and greed and then disguise it as professionalism, but rather strategize to command change wherever we find ourselves and whatever we do. In fact, this is a loaded information. This is loaded information. So as an individual, as an engineer, what do you want to do differently after this session today? Well, that's a rhetorical question that we should answer for ourselves. Please,
Engineer Secretary, your line has been breaking.
platform is open for questions, please. You can raise. Can you please hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
Yeah,
my hand is up, Engineer Secretary.
Okay, after you, then Edward.
Okay, thanks so much for the opportunity, and thanks to our resource person for this insightful line that has been thrown to us. In fact, anytime some of us listen to somebody like you, Engineer Michael Dede, we feel like what is happening to us. I mean, it comes with pain, things we see going out of hand, like you are holding an egg and it's falling down and you're unable to catch it. It comes with pain. But engineer, you've made reference to other countries like Japan and China. I remember when we were growing, some of us were growing as young as, we are today, and those days we heard or we saw small vehicles or small cars like Tico that China produced. It was that like a box kind of a car. And we were laughing. I was young, but I saw myself and other grown-ups were laughing at Tico anytime we saw it. Today, China is producing cars that countries like Japan and Australia are all importing from China. Engineer, don't you think, and here comes the question, don't you think that we need to start from somewhere? Other than always trying to reference ourselves to this giant, is it not going to, put us in a depression state? Because there's no way we can become like China and Japan just today and tomorrow. It took them so long a time to gradually progress in the ladder of engineering to be where they are today. What are we saying or doing from engineering perspective to advise the powers that be that we need to start from somewhere? If you don't do that, you and I agree that the next 10 years to come, we will still be referencing ourselves to these same countries and we've done nothing. I remember again, we had an administration in this country, a government that gave a long-term plan. There was a name for it. Was it Vision 2020 or something? And as at the time, we were laughing that when will this day come? And here we are, we've gone past that 2020. If my memory serves me right, we've gone past that date. Meanwhile, when it was mentioned, we were all accusing and laughing at that administration. So, engineer, don't you think we need to start from somewhere? And that somewhere, where do you think that somewhere must be? That would be my question, engineer.
Okay. So should I? I'll take this and then maybe ask. Maybe when I answer, someone else may be ready. So I've gone back to the slide where I say mindset revolution. First and foremost, let's listen to ourselves. When we talk among ourselves as colleague engineers, and we talk about national problems, you hear people say, as for me, I've given up. I can't do anything about this. So the first thing we need is a mindset change, where we believe that the normal is not acceptable anymore. Then we ask ourselves, what can I do? What can we do? For me, there's more strength in collective action than individual action. And that is why even in the workplace, I say, let's work as teams. But then as an institution, this is where we need, as a group, to say, look, irrespective of political coloring or anything, what is bad engineering is bad engineering. What is good engineering is good engineering. If we need to support it, we need to support it and do it vocally, publicly. Let's say it. Let's not chicken away from it. So for us as an engineering group, we need to begin to mobilize, build strength and the capacity of the institution so that we say these things without flinching. We can't keep quiet. I think that the toxic or ecosystem within which it will not allow the best of engineering. The question that I ask myself, and that is why I made a comparison with countries like Japan, Singapore, and China. Because at our time of independence, although China had, Japan, for instance, had gone through a huge industrial, after the Second World War, they had been broken up. But look at where Japan, how it built itself up again. Singapore built itself. China built itself. So if you look at the examples, it required a certain mindset and leadership to galvanize the people to do what they have done for themselves. If we are not getting that leadership, what can we as professionals do? And I have come to a certain conclusion that professionals can help accelerate that process if we stand up to our own professional and ethical practices. What we can then say, look, a road into this place will not provide the required level of services that is required. For instance, I keep citing roads because it's one of the things that all of us can quickly identify, not because I want to pick a particular group of engineering practitioners, because whatever another group of engineers affects all of us. Let's not look at it as a civil problem or an electrical problem or as a mechanical problem. It's an engineering issue. We are building roads from here to Accra, or from Accra to Kumasi. The bypass we have done around Nkoko at the very moment, people are beginning to encroach and build next to that bypass. So in a few years' time, that road is going to slow down. And this is supposed to be a trunk road. And a trunk road must have a certain speed because you want to reduce time travel. Then in the next few minutes, we'll give contracts to people to go and put speed ramps on that road. So as engineers, we should be asking, no, this should not be allowed. We should not allow people to build their houses, turn off the highway into their houses, because it slows down the highway. And then the next moment, we are putting speed ramps. And these, we are the same engineers sitting at highways, urban roads, and everywhere. And we are giving our contract instead of saying, no, this is a highway. This should not be allowed. We should not allow estate developers to acquire land next to the highways and be putting a building. But we keep quiet and watch. So for me, the revolution or mindset must begin with the institution itself, realizing that we need to begin to challenge these issues openly. Once we begin to assert those things, people will listen because it will make sense to a lot of people. Politicians may begin to listen. So let's not give up on the society. So that mindset revolution is critical to ensuring that we can bring about change. But if we as an institution by ourselves sit down, our members themselves will not feel bold enough to go out there and say anything. Because there's strength in that collective rather than with individuals. So let's look at how we can strengthen our institution to ensure that we can begin that crusade of a mindset change and consolidate that with other professional bodies and ensure that we can all be on the same page when it comes to holding governments accountable, irrespective of the political party. Because if we don't do that, we will become like the Ghana Bar Association, which has been tagged by one political party as being a partisan. So we need to be informed by the history around professional bodies so that when we say this is what we are going to do, we do it properly and we are consistent with it.
Thank you very much. So, engineer, continuing from that spot, my next question would be, how then are we not able to discipline our members when we see clearly that something had gone wrong? I know the code of ethics talks about disciplinary actions and all that, but I've never heard in my life in engineering for about 2 decades, I've never heard that Ghana Institution of Engineering has disciplined any of its members.
Yeah.
If we are not able to do that from within, why do we point our hands out to, say, the government when within our own small circle we are not able to look into people's face and say you've messed up, and for that matter we've taken your certificate from you? Why are we not able to do that?
Well, that is the weakness we have as a people. So we then refer to Fama Nyame, and that is what cripples us. That is why I say the toxic environment of God, greed, and politics just messes us all up. When people have been found to have committed an offense, we must discipline them. We must be able to look them in the face, whether they are our friends or not, and say, you have erred. And therefore, this is the code that you have sworn to protect. These are the things, and therefore, these are the actions that will be taken against you. This is where we fail ourselves. Because I remember a case where a case was brought to us at the institution here. And I'm saying it because these are things that we must all know. Some electrical engineers were sent out of this country to go and procure transformers for this country. They did not do their part in terms of factory acceptance testing. And when the transformers came into this country, they were leaking. The case was brought to the Ghana Institution of Engineering. The findings were made and the report given back to the minister. Those engineers were never disciplined. And for me, that is worrying. And we kept quiet about it as an institution subsequently. So for me, if we want to be able to go out there and challenge political authority, the first thing we must do is make sure that we can hold ourselves accountable. That is why I say that the institution must be able to call out contractors, consultants, and engineers when they have erred, especially when the works are within public space. We should not shy away from this. We should not, because if we want to be seen as a credible body and taken seriously, these are the things we must be able to do for ourselves. We must be seen as holding our own members and practitioners accountable. Yes, so I'm done with that, Karim. If there are any other questions, I'll take them.
Yeah,
Hello?
engineer, from my side, I'm okay.
Hello?
Thank you very much.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Hello?
you.
Okay, I'm Edward.
Yes, Edward, please go
Um,
ahead.
yes, I would like to thank you, Engineer Dede, for the presentation. You touched on planning of our land spaces. Planning of our land spaces.
Yeah.
I think that our land tenure system in this country is a very big problem when you go around the country. The ownership of land is in the hands of the chiefs. Ownership of land is in the hands of families and individuals. So they would sell, they would do whatever they want on their land. And the district assemblies and municipal assemblies cannot do anything. When you go to the district assemblies, most of them have plans. Most of them have planned their districts and municipal areas. But when it comes to implementation, that's where the problem is. If I believe that chieftaincy is very, very important in our country. When you take the Galamsey issues, for instance, there are certain villages in this country where when the chiefs rose against Galamsey, I can tell you now that there is no Galamsey going on in such places. There is no Galamsey going on in such places. So I believe that if we can plan our spaces very well, the chieftaincy institution must take the forefront, followed by the district assemblies and then the municipal assemblies. Because when you go around the country, you see that certain areas, for instance, like you mentioned, the Nkoko bypass, which I used quite very recently, and I was surprised that even refuge, there are certain portions where people have started dumping refuse in those along the highway, and buildings have started coming up.
Yeah.
So I think that our chieftaincy and then our district and municipal assemblies must work hand in hand if we have to implement our plans, our blueprints that we have in the districts. That's my take.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just make a little contribution to that. So, yes, government doesn't own lands in Ghana, or unless it acquires it by a legislative instrument or some other means. But land use and spatial planning is determined by government. So, in as much as government doesn't own land, the way government regulates land use is through zoning and planning. So you go to other, and this is not unique to Ghana. I'll give you a typical, because I have an uncle who was married to a Slovenian, and she said, look, she's lived in Slovenia all her life. They have a piece of land, it belongs to the family, but the government has determined that you cannot use that land for anything apart from growing vegetables or plants. You can't do anything else. So spatial control or land use is determined by government. And now, you see, we have a constitution. The constitution has given certain authority, certain rights to people. And you have laws, acts of parliament that we have enacted that give people power. Yes, chiefs can play a role to support the legally mandated institutions. But the legally mandated institutions, the way I see it, are failing in their responsibilities. So when a district says we have plans, but we cannot implement it, I said that is a lie. The fact that a chief owns a land or a family owns a land, it is for you as the district to zone it and say this land can only be used for farming. This land is for residential purposes. This land is for this. And if you need the district needs to acquire it, it must acquire it for public use, especially maybe for maybe a waste field, a land site, or issues like that. But the worrying part again is that the same people we have given authority to have made the municipals non-functional. So we have decentralized, but we have not given power in terms of resources to the districts. So we appoint chief executives who have no understanding of what they have to do. And they go and sit there, and the next day we have given them cars, they are driving around and making all manner of statements.
Yeah.
The purpose of the district, if you look at the acts, the Local Government Act, they have all the powers. So the issue is not about who owns the land for me at this moment. If government owns land, fine. But if government doesn't own, government determines land use. So for me, that is the fundamental issue that we need to focus on and call out the people who have been given that authority to execute on our behalf.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
Please, any other person with any question for our resource person? Engineer Osman, your hand is still up.
Yeah, sorry, engineer, let me drop it.
Okay. Please, any other question? Any other question for our resource person?
So if there's one, let me just cite another example, because I think that the more we get to understand this issue, the better it is for all of us.
Yeah.
Most of you have visited Accra over the years. You will notice that we have what they call the airport city. Now, when that place was planned, the planners said that, look, if we develop this place as an airport city, we are going to have a lot of runoff water because we are going to pave a lot of places. So then they decided that they must create an artificial pond so that all the water that will run off when it rains will gather there, so that it could just even stay there as a recreational facility and all that. You know where that pond was supposed to be sited? They planned and said the pond should be sited where we have silver towers today. That is where they planned and put it on paper. The next moment, the authorities decided to sell that piece of land. So that is the kind of society we are living in, where professional advice is not taken and we all sit back and raise our hands. So all the runoff water from airports now goes straight into the drain, and then at Dabraka and Asalonda and places get flooded. And we raise our hands in the air and think that, oh, it is the poor people alone who are throwing rubbish in the drains that are causing the problem. The political actors, high and middle class people, we are causing problems by spatial development. So it is not like people sometimes don't know. They know, they have laws to enforce, but they won't. They will bypass it. Even in the midst of this discussion on flooding, somebody put out a photograph of an advert that a municipal assembly had published, which effectively said that somebody wanted to develop in a swampy area, and the person wanted to fill it and reclaim it. So if nobody has objection, they would go ahead and give the person permission. And I said, I mean, how does a municipal authority even advertise that? How? Are there no engineers, no planners, no architects within that municipal assembly who understand these issues and could have said, no, we cannot advertise this. We shouldn't allow this construction to go on. So that is why government itself is now finding it difficult to go and punish people for building waterways. Because the government itself is implicit. So if you pull down and people have legitimate permits, you have to pay them compensation. So these are the challenges, and unless professionals at every level begin to challenge this and say, no, this is not how it should be done, and we only listen to political actors who are only thinking about the next vote, we are going to bring this country down. And this country is going down fast. So for me, these are the things that must concern all of us as practitioners in this country. Not just engineers, but other practitioners. And let's raise the bar of our own practice and say, this is not right. This is not how the city should be planned. This is not how things should be done. But when we simply keep quiet and say, okay, as for me, I've been told I should go and build here. Whether it is professional or not, I'll build because I've been told to go and build. Then we are not acting professionally. We are not upholding ethics.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for the wonderful responses. I have a question, engineer. So, as GHI as an institution, what can GHI do to push for professional advices on issues, technical advice on issues to be taken into consideration by the government as an institution? What exactly can be done? Or else we keep going around, and we come back to the same level because if professionals put out advices out there and nothing is done in terms of those they taken into consideration, considered by the politicians, the government, what then happens?
You see, so these are for me, these are issues that council needs to look at closely and see how we approach it. But like the suggestions I've put out, I say that the institution must be able to name and shame. So if we see clearly, because that is why we have the technical divisions, we have civil, we have mechanical, agric, marine, we have chemical and mining, we have electrical and electronics at the moment. And there are specialties within all these divisions. So if there's anything going on within the space that is engineering, we should be able to get a committee to sit down and say, hey, is this right? If this is not right, give us a one-pager as to what is wrong, it's not right, and let us speak to it. If we don't do those engagements as an institution, and this is where, again, the Constitution is very well done, in that under our Constitution, the president does not have any executive powers. Powers rest with the council. And this, for me, is designed to insulate the president himself directly from being attacked. So that but the president is the chief spokesperson for the institution. So once council approves anything, the president should not be afraid. Unfortunately, should not be afraid to go and see what council has approved. So presidents, even if they want to say something, must engage council so that they know that they are on firm grounds. Because if you as a president go and say something out there and people come back and go and investigate, because we have all become a very partisan. If you are not careful, somebody who belongs to a political party in that council will say, this thing we didn't agree at it at council. So what the president is saying is not the council decision. Then it immediately leaves you the president ajar. So presidents must always make sure that they consult with council, even if they want to speak on a particular issue because it's their area of expertise. But for me, the institution must take up issues. The institution must be able to go out there. And this is where all of us must support the institution. And that is why I say that we must depoliticize professional practice. We must, as individuals, depoliticize professional practice and ethics so that when people act properly, we don't look at their political colors. We should look at them as professionals so that when the president speaks on behalf of council, no engineer should go out there and say, oh, no, what the president is saying is not right. Because he's consulted experts and he's come out. So he's not speaking by himself, he's speaking on behalf of the institution and on behalf of all of us. So these are the things that we should all learn to gather around and rally around to ensure that these things get done. And we must be willing to volunteer some of our own time because a lot of the work is voluntary. A lot of the council work is voluntary. A lot of committee work is voluntary. So I want to plead with us as members first to be able to sacrifice some time for the institution's work. Then beyond that, council must consult and be open to do what has to be done. Because if we don't, the ecosystem pulls all of us down. And when you go out as a Ghanaian engineer, everybody will look and say, you are an engineer, and your country is like this. I mean, it looks bad on all of us. Because I say again, anytime I've had the opportunity to go around, I look at engineering works out in other countries and services. And it's fantastic. So any engineer, I believe, who travels into this country will look around and say, are there engineers in Ghana? Then if the person sets up a company and says, employ Ghanaians, they'll say, as for Ghanaians, they're not good enough, I'll pay you this. So it's a whole mix that reflects on us as professionals that we need to look at and say, look, we need to deal with it. Because assuming that we decided to host a World Federation of Engineering Organization one day here in Ghana, and they came, like all of us went to Ho recently for our conference in Ho, we all saw the hotel. A lot of people simply saw the hotel and said, this is bad engineering, this is bad architecture. So where are we going to put the people when they come? Will they pronounce bad verdicts on us and say, but your thing doesn't work properly. This thing is not properly positioned. This is not well designed. Those are the things. So if we want to belong to that world community, we must begin to self-censor our own selves. We must begin to question our own practice. And we must support the institution to speak out on our behalf.
Okay. I think I'm satisfied. Someone put out something in the comment section. Engineer Charles Omani Kwatin. He's saying that thank you very much, Engineer Dede. I was very happy when you touched on the losses in the energy sector, specifically the power distribution. I find it difficult to understand why the engineering institutions have kept quiet about this issue of illegal or foreign meters imported by political characters that has infiltrated ECG and NEDCO operational areas. As long as people use power and do not pay for it, and they are being aided by political powers, ECG and NEDCO will never break even and should not even dream of making profit. The losses will keep on going up and the tariff will keep soaring. Why has GHI not been vocal about these issues? Engineer, this is his question.
So again, this is where I'm encouraging that the institution needs to begin to look at some of these issues. Because, look, when this government took over, we all heard about these cables and ECG containers all over. Procurement. You have to, and some of these things are procured, and we can't even use them for the next 10 years. And yet we have paid money for it simply because people want contracts to supply. And ECG becomes the victim. And we as engineers sit there in ECG and overlook these things. So the question is, why do we overlook them? Why do we overlook them? So for me, these are the worrying things. So that is why I again go back to the issue of a mindset change. We have come to accept it as normal. So we are not willing to fight that system. So somebody says you cannot free people who still think that their chains are normal. How do you free them? How do you free them? So I agree with the suggestion that the gentleman has made. We need, as an institution, to begin to, but we must begin with the engineers within ECG, possibly coming to GHIE and say, look, this is what is happening here. Can you speak out about it? And that is the power of the institution. It becomes a neutral body. But we have members in all this. You come and talk to GHIE and say, look, this is what is happening. What can you do about it for us? Because it doesn't look good on us as engineers within ECG. That's even if you are scared as an individual. But we must encourage these things. That is the only way we can begin to collectively change our society. Now look, why are you doing this procurement? You haven't even finished laying this cable, and yet you are doing more procurement. Because somebody in politics says, I've got a connection, I want to supply you cables. So pay me money and let me supply cables. I mean, it doesn't look good on us. So ECG is there and it's not making profits. And every day we keep increasing tariffs. So if we want to place ourselves in a competitive mode, we cannot. Because if power tariffs are so high here in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire is not that high, or the other countries are not that high, if anybody wants to set up business, they'll go to Cote d'Ivoire. They won't come to Ghana. And that is the way we as engineers need to begin to understand our work. So thanks very much for the inputs there. But I think we need to make the institution active. We need to report issues like that to the institution. If we see wrong, we come to the institution. If we are unable to deal with it ourselves, and say, hey, well, even within ECG, you have associations, you have senior staff associations, and you should be able to sit up and say, look, this is not right. Unless all of you are unless all the people there are benefiting from it. But if they are not, but even if we sit down and say, this is not professional, this is not proper, then we must speak about it.
Okay. Someone sent me a private message and said he's lost connection. So his question is, how ready is the institution to protect individuals who approach them to report issues regarding pertaining to their places of work, as in issues that are bothering them at their various places of work?
At the moment, I am not too sure what system we have set up, because I remember at the last AGM or conference, it was said that they are creating a system for people to report issues. I am not too sure at what stage we are, but I will ask, and possibly whoever you are, you can ask your divisional chairperson to make such inquiries at the next council meeting. Because unfortunately, I'm not on council at the moment. I'm just an ordinary member. I'm not on council, or I don't serve on any unit at the moment for which I have access to such information. And even if I were to ask now how to give that feedback back to you, may be difficult. So I would suggest that you ask your divisional chair or your occupational group executive to get that answer for you. That would be a way to get response from council, so that they publicize exactly what system has been set up for people to report things.
All right, thank you. I'll feedback that to him. Please, any other question for our resource person? I can't see any hands up. Please, any other question? Engineers? Any other questions? Edward
Hello?
again. Edward, go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes. Thank you once again. Engineer talked about mindset shift. Looking at all these problems that this country is going through over the years, don't you think that our educational system also contributes to what is happening? And if we have to change, we should start from the basic education level. That's my question.
To some extent, I agree that the education system stifles challenge, and most importantly at the university level. And that is why a lecturer or what we call faculty-student ratio is important. At the moment, when a lecturer is overwhelmed, when you have 200 students in front of you teaching a subject, and even 3 people want to ask questions, you get frustrated and say, hey, don't ask questions. And that is saying that we are silencing you. But the purpose of tertiary education is to help you think better. Because at the tertiary level, we are not just teaching you A plus B or A, B, C, D, or we are saying 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. No, we are teaching you how to reason and how to think. So you must be able to question even the lecturer in front of you as to whatever theory he's even presenting to you. But if you have a certain level of student to lecturer ratio, the lecturer hasn't got time to have that close discussion with you, and therefore you grow up stifled because you have been told that you can't ask questions. You must obey before complain, as though we're in a military camp. So I think, yes, to some extent, our education has not been that helpful in that direction in terms of making us more assertive in what has to be done. But as to the details of what should be done, I can't give any recommendations at the moment. I would think that the educational experts will have to help us in that area. But I think that definitely our education has not made us as assertive as we need to be.
Thank you very much, Engineer.
Okay, so please, engineers, in the absence of any other question, I hand over to Engineer Osman. I think I've lost him.
Engineer Secretary, I'm here with you.
Oh, okay, sorry. To give us his closing remarks.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And indeed, I'm sure we can all attest to the fact that the time we've spent with our resource person is really worth it, and we've learned a lot. And I'm sure we have been pricked to go back and give it a second thought as to what is our role as engineering professionals. As individuals, I'm sure it's clear to us what we have to do. Most often than not, we tend to point our finger, the one single finger to the other side, forgetting that the other four is pointing to us. So clearly, Engineer Michael Dede has pointed this one out to us clearly that, look, it sits with us as well. We need to know which one is not good for us. We don't have to keep quiet. And I like his slogan that he always put out, silence is not an option. The more we keep quiet, the more things keep going bad. And the more things keep going bad, the more this country go down the drain. I don't think we can afford the next 10 years down the line, God willing, to see our surroundings, our country to be just as it is. That would be highly unfortunate. Hence, programs like this. And I'm sure we've been educated, we've been informed, and above all, we've been annoyed. Now, you have to be annoyed. You have to be angry and ask yourself, why do you find yourself in this environment with all our knowledge, with all our expertise, with all our IQ, all mention them, including the resources? Why are we where we are? We need to be angry enough, not angry to go and fight, but angry to cause a positive change. On that note, our resource person, Engineer Michael Dede, you've done it again. We knew we were going to have the best out of you, as you always been delivering. I work with you in the MAM division of our institution, and I said to my executives when we were organizing this that, look, this program is never going to get bored so far as we are bringing this resource person. And indeed, that's what you've shown to us. We thank you so much. As engineers in the field of our practice, we know one day we'll need you again. And we are sure and clear in our mind that when we call you again, you will respond positively to our call and come and guide us inform us, provoke us, push us to reason again and try to do things better for our dear country. Your time is precious. Like I said during the opening, we are not taking it for granted. We appreciate it for sharing that precious time of yours with us. And we will never forget this as a chapter. We thank you so much for what you've done for us. Engineer, I'm sure Engineer will have his last word with us before. So Engineer, if you want to say anything,
Okay.
the floor is open before you take a leave of us.
Okay. I just want to thank all of you for making time to listen to what I had to share. I only hope that as we go out, we will be inspired to try and bring change wherever we find ourselves. It's not going to be easy, but it requires of us to make change. A little effort are change, because tomorrow's generation will judge us. And when I turned 50 a few years ago, I told myself that I always blamed my father's generation for the woes of Ghana. But now I cannot blame my father's generation, because my mates and me are in positions of authority in Ghana at the moment. I'm over 50 years old, so I cannot blame my father's generation anymore. What is happening today is my generation. So we need to take up issues into our own hands and stop blaming other people. We need to look around ourselves and say, how can we make change? And if you're an engineer, you should ask yourself, how can I make change within the institution? How can I make change within the society? If we don't, no profession in this country is going to be worth its practice. Because if justice is not delivered, lawyers are not worth their value. If engineering systems don't work, engineers are not worth their value. And that is the way we need to begin to look at things. We shouldn't look at it as for me, I'm doing my technical work, I'm being asked to do this, I've designed it, I've done this, I've finished. I don't have any, those who want me to design, I've designed it for them. No. We should be asking ourselves, what is the purpose of this design? Will it achieve its purpose? Because when we are designing things, we ask for criteria for the design. What do we want to achieve? All those things. It is to ensure that we serve society. So when we don't query these things afterwards, it's bad on our part. When we design roads and we say the traffic flow should be this, the time travel on this road should be this, when we finish constructing the road, do we measure the time travel? And we monitor it to make sure that it is meeting the requirement for which we designed it? No. So these are the things that we need to begin to question ourselves. And that is why all that investment was made in our education. And when we sit down today and disappoint the public because we think everything belongs to us, we have a sense of entitlement, then we have ruined our society. So that is where I would want to end, that we must begin to look at ourselves and begin to take our society more seriously.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Engineer. I'm sure this will sit with us for a long time whilst we scratch our head and ask ourselves so many questions until we are able to do something good for this dear country. Thank you, Engineer, and we hope that you enjoy the evening and the rest of the night. Until we meet again, please may you take good care of yourself, and may God bless you so much for what you've done for this chapter. Thank you once again, Engineer.
Thank you all.
All right. Okay, so at this stage, Engineer may take a leave of us, and members, as we discussed, we have the next phase of our engagement. Engineer Secretary will take us through that level, and then we can also get that information that we want to share with you. Our resource person shared the information with us, so the slide with me, I will share with all of us, and then we can be going through and be revising and get to be reminded when we have to. Clearly, the problem we are seeing is not caused by anybody but you and I. And you and I must now make it a point to begin to change certain things. If we don't do it for ourselves and our dear country, nobody will do it for us. All right. So back to you, Engineer Secretary. Where are we going from here?
All right. So we are going straight to the AGM. We are going straight to the AGM. Please, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, madam.
All right. Okay. So our first agenda on the lineup for discussion regards to the general meeting is the EP exams and then the update for induction. The EP exam that's just recently been written, which the results are in, and then the induction updates. I would hand over to Engineer Chair to give us some make some
Okay.
brief comments on that agenda.
Thank you, Engineer Secretary. So that's one of the good news we have to share with ourselves. And the good news happens to be the fact that these exams we organize, not even one person was left out. We all excel and then came out successfully in the exams. And that's the beauty of the game. Working together, we are able to achieve a lot. We presented about, I think, 35, if my memory serves me right. And we all were successful. We came out successful. Not even one person failed. I've been with the committees from the other side, sometimes at the national level, and there hasn't been even one that we complete and we say is 100% successful. Almost every day, every time we conduct JHI exams, we get casualties. But in this case, that's the good news. We were able to come out successfully without any casualty. Right. So congrats to all the candidates and all those of us who supported. The benefit comes to all of us. I mean, that's what we can do for ourselves, support ourselves to grow in our career paths. Okay, so away from the exams, we are not done yet. Somebody was asking graduation. With our institution, we don't do graduation. What we do is for induction. So we'll be inducted into the corporate space of the GHIE, where from subsequent to the induction, you can now call yourself engineer with the ING in front of your name. And you need to be proud of that 3-letter words, because as you all can attest to the fact that we did not get it on a silver platter, right? So where we are now in terms of the induction, we have 3 options at this stage. One option is to all mobilize ourselves to Accra for the induction, and that date has been given as 25th August of this year. We all assembled there, including other exams and those other colleagues who pass the exam from the other side. We all meet there. During that occasion it's big, it's fun. You get to meet a lot of people. So always that is the option. However, we all know a lot of things are happening on various sites, Gofi site, Takwa, AngloGo site, and we are miners, okay. And without the mines, we wouldn't have become engineers. So our priority should be the mines, the work we do, right? We see that it's going to be difficult for a lot of people to be moved from this side to Accra. Hence, there's another option. The other option is online. we can as well do the induction online, where we'll go through the same procedure, just that it's through electronic. Usually this option is not the best. And I know most of you are saying, why online? Why online? Yeah, you are right. It's not the best option. So there's another layer, that is for us to mobilize the executives, the president of the institution and his executives to come to Takwa and induct us over here in Takwa. That becomes a special arrangement that the institution is ready to do for us. Okay. So if you look at these three options, considering the workload, our engagements at work, and the fact that the 25th might not be favorable for some of us, and all that put together, the site, which is the executives coming to Takwa, seems to be the preferred option, even though we have not concluded yet. We would want to vote on that on the platform here, which the engineer organizer will prepare a voting link and we'll put it here and we'll vote. Then we know how this is accepted by us. If it's not accepted, which one are we going for? All right. So the majority of that will be the deciding factor. We will also have to seek consent of the various organizations where our colleagues are coming from, like Anglo Gold Ashanti, Goldfish, GMC. Some of the concerned individual will have to go forward and seek it. Some of them will step forward and also, depending on the number of people from that institution. All right. So that is the next line of action. At least we have from now till, say, 20th of next month, which is the month is just about to begin, to make that decision. But we'll make sure we are able to do that voting as early as practicable, and then we'll know our positions, and then also seek the consent of our management and put the two together and see which one will be best for us, and then we can opt for it and go for it. So that is it. What it means by extension is the fact that even though you've passed the exams, you still do not qualify to call yourself engineer until this induction is done. So we are going to put a lot of energy behind getting the induction done so that you'll be free, you have your stamp and all that you need, your certificate, and then you move through. On top of that, we all are required to seek CPD. These are points that you get when you attend programs like what we are doing, or training programs from GHIE, or any other professional related program pertaining to your profession. And that must be recorded. Every year, each and everyone is expected to get not less than 18 points. Not less than 18 points. And this is backed by the bylaw. The bylaw, Article 611(1) Clause B, says that a full member of the institution will be required to complete at least 18 professional development hours of continuous professional development in each calendar year as required. And that will make you be in a good standing. Being in a good standing means that you fulfill all the protocols, you paid your dues, and you've acquired the 18 points, and that will make you be in a good standing. Without that, what the institution is allowed to do is to take the certificate back from you. And once it's taken back from you, you have to go through that mill again, that difficulty we all went through to pass the exams, write the exam, do all those things before you get your certificate again, which is something that nobody will advise anyone to do. So what it means is that getting the CPD is very, very important. And we have shared here with us the template where we record the CPD, because a point in time will come where you will be required to bring evidence of how you acquired the CPD. You have to get the date, the program, the facilitator, the institution, or what have you, all recorded so that you'll be able to back your point with evidence. So let us take note and then ensure that we are able to join most of these programs organized by the institution or those that are organized by other professional bodies in relation to our profession. Okay, so that will be it on the exams and the induction that we have ahead of us. We will start the voting very soon, and then we'll keep ourselves posted on the platform, and then we'll get to know where we are heading towards. So, Engineer Secretary and team, that is the update on the induction and our exams. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Engineer Chair. Please, is there any question regards to Engineer Daniel Adonate, the Vice Chair of the Takwa chapter? Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Engineer Secretary. And on behalf of the chapter, I also want to say congratulations to all those who passed the exams. And it's a good job and well done for that effort you all put in. Just talking about CPDs. Engineer Chair, I just want to trigger something for us all to think about it and see how we can bring solution to it. If you realized most CPD training courses are all done in Accra in person, apart from some web seminars and webinars that are done online. If you want to participate in any of the CPD courses, you need to be in Accra or you need to travel to Accra. And you also realize that some of these meetings and other webinars are not enough to be able to give you that number of points to be able to qualify for your next registration of the institution. And so I want to ask, can we champion having some of these training and courses online so that those of us not in Accra will be able to participate wherever we are in the world? I don't know whether you get my point here.
Yeah, Engineer Vice Chair, the point is very clear, and I think that's a good question. That's a good point you've brought up. Thanks for doing that. So, this is actually going to be part of the next agenda that we're going to talk about. Some of these things are all organized by funds, money. We need money as a chapter to be able to move into some of these spaces. In one of our executive meetings, we even decided that we will be able to bring in resource persons here in Takwa in person so that we get some of these benefits. And to do all these things come with, funds, which as we speak, we don't have. And that is how come we are putting more energy behind getting the dues paid. There are a lot more we can do in our space to make our chapter very relevant and very important, and then we all benefit from it, right? But unfortunately, that support is not coming forth or has not been the way it ought to be until now. But we believe and we hope that after this engagement going forward, members are going to be clear in their mind that the dues they will pay has a lot of benefit in return to all of us. As a matter of fact, the executives we have here are dedicated and are willing. And there are times that we even have to spend our own money to get certain things done. I remember when we visited the chief of Apinto, members joined. I remember Engineer Margaret was with us. Engineer Margaret Akon was with us. She did very well. She had to bring money from her pocket to do certain payment. We had to do certain things out of our own pockets, which we were happy doing that. And we are proud we did that. Right. But there are more we cannot do all alone by ourselves. We need the support of each and every one, right, to be able to get some of these things done. And look, if we are able to come to the party by paying our due, there are a lot more we can do for ourselves. And we'll be happy we did. For instance, in the program for the year, we are looking at Engineers Excellence Award nights. I attended one of these programs, and come on, it was so nice. So if we have been exposed to this being done elsewhere, we can also do it for ourselves here. But we cannot do it without money, right? So we hope and trust that we will get that support from our members. And Engineer Vice Chair, you know that this is something that we can do. It's so easy for us to mobilize resource persons to come even in person, right? For online, it's not difficult. We only need to get some few payments here and there done, and then we can do it. So the answer is that yes, it's something that we can do, and we are looking forward to get the support, and then we move into that space and get it done. Yeah. Okay, so Engineer Secretary, back to you.
All right. So in the absence of any other question, we'll move on to the agenda 2, which is the 2026 programs and then the preparations. 2026 programs and the preparations.
Okay.
Engineer.
So basically, what we've done now, I mean, in terms of the program we just had, happens to be one of the programs that we've earmarked for ourselves. The recent exams we did was one of the milestones we put forth, and we've been able to achieve it, and I think we are all proud of that. There are other few that we have also listed. For instance, our engagement with the artisans. This is something that is dear to the heart of the executives. You and I here are well exposed. We can read everything we want to read, understand anything we want to understand. What about that guy who is fixing your car, whether it's a brand new or is a home use car? That guy fixing it, does he understand clearly what he's doing? There is something you and I can do in that space. So as part of this year program, we said that we're going to engage them, and we've started that engagement with them. We've been there on 2 occasions. They are happy we are coming to them to, first of all, expose them to certain areas that can help them and benefit us. One of them is that we engage with Toyota so that we can get a resource person from that space who will engage these artisans from time to time, and then we can be training them, not in the full scale of training, but more in the space of exposure, right? You and I can attest to the fact that mechanics will take off 4 boats and put 2 there, and the person will tell you, oh, Enyeshi. The guy, it's not his fault. He has not done any calculation to know that if taking away 2 boats out of 4 will cause a problem, right? So we need some of this engagement to bring these guys to a level where you and I will be safe, having given our vehicles to them to fix for us. Hence, trying to do this program. In fact, when we went there again, there were expenses that came in. Individuals voted that expenses, but like I said, we cannot do it alone by ourselves. We need the support of each and every one here, right? And then most importantly, and top on the program list is the engineering awards nights that we want to do. This, we need to be able to do this program this year, as a matter of fact. And I'm sure if you're able to do it this year, members will push us to do it every year because it's going to be fun and then we'll socialize more, we'll get to know ourselves more, and then we'll get to talk more engineering, right? So these are some of the programs we have listed. But again, we cannot do it without the support of each and everyone here, right? So that will be it on the program side. What we've done so far, I've mentioned them. What we have ahead of us to do, I've mentioned them as well. But the most important thing is that we need you to help us get this program done. Back to you, Engineer Secretary.
All right. Please, any addition, any questions regards to the programs? Any suggestions from the house engineers? Any suggestions from anyone? Any comments? Any questions?
I'm sure members are happy to support. That's why we have silence on this.
Yes. So our last agenda is the payment of dues, which I think you touched on. Yes.
That's a big ticket in terms of resource. Yes. So members, some few questions came up from especially our new members who just joined us recently. Some were asking whether they were they're supposed to pay dues. The answer today is yes. I mean, more money is good, right? So we expect each and every one of us to come forth with the payment. We started paying the dues from February, right? And we expect that we will go back and pay from that point till date. Because look, the program we have ahead of us, like we've indicated, comes with a lot of expenses. And you and I know, I mean, how things are running these days in our part of the world here. So we need each and every one, whether we are old members or we are new members, we are all, it's incumbent on all of us to support the chapter with that contribution. And the amount is 100 Ghana per month. Each month, each member is expected to pay 100 Ghana. We also have our treasurer who is always posting the Momo number on the platform, ensuring that he's reminding us to pay our dues. We also have the updated list of dues payment on the platform. If you've made any payment and your name is not appearing as it should, please feel free to touch base with the treasurer and then he will do the necessary corrections. And then the chapter will be able to do what we expect it to do and become what we want it to become. One of the levels that we want to go is to become a branch, as we've mentioned. But some of these things come to play for us to achieve that objective, right? So members, new, old, let us all try as much as possible and pay our dues, right? We don't want it to be like, if you don't pay the dues, you don't become a member. No, we became members before we thought of the dues. So the dues is actually secondary. It shouldn't define who we are. The worst case scenario will be we don't get the dues, we don't get to do most of these big ticket programs that we've marked for ourselves, which I know we're not going to get there because I know we are all convinced to support the chapter with the 100 Ghana cedis a month. It's a big money. I mean, to pay 100 cedis every month, it's a big money. But looking at what we seek to achieve out of payment of that money, we can all be rest assured that it's worth it, right? It's worth it to pay that amount to get some of these programs done. So that'll be it on the dues aspect, Engineer Secretary. And I know members also again do not have questions on this. So back to you,
Yeah,
Engineer Secretary.
like yes, it looks like the members seem to be so I can't see anyone's hands up. Please, any concerns, any suggestions, any comments, any questions? All right. In the absence of that, AOB. Any other concern?
Yes.
Okay, please go
Oh,
ahead.
all right. So just a quick one. Regardless of wherever we will have the induction, whether in Accra or we decide in Takwa, as an institution, do we have a specific dress code for such occasions, or any decent dressing that any one of us just put on for the occasion is fine?
Engineer Chair.
Okay, so it's formal dressing that is required. Formal. Yeah, there isn't specific restriction on our dress code. Just that we all need to bear in mind that that day is one of the special days in our lives. The day we get to be inducted is one of the special days in our lives, and we want to treat that special day with the attention it deserves, right? So you feel free and dress. I remember when we were doing one induction in Accra, somebody put up a dressing and it was so strange, right? This three-quarters dress that gets to the middle of the leg in front of the shin, and the rest of the leg were all exposed with a long socks, that kind of dressing. And it was okay. I mean, nobody will restrict you from dressing the way you want to dress, but the advice is that it must be formal. It must be something that you look back to it and say, yes, you are happy you did what you did. So that will be it on that point.
Okay. Additionally, since we have to go back and start paying our dues as new members on the platform from February, so per my calculation, it looks like we'll be paying like 6 or 7 months. Is there any flexibility that maybe I can pay half this month and then next month I pay the arrears?
Yes, that is allowed. That is allowed. This is actually voluntary, right? Just that we all need to know the benefit of what that will give to us, and then we can put some energy behind it and pay it as early as we can, because we have few months in a year to end the year. So if you're able to get it early, we'll be able to then bring the programs forward, and then we can get it done and dusted, and then we can be thinking about the next program, right? So that's fine. You can decide to break it into two, and then pay it. It shouldn't come with a stress on you, right? So manage it the way you think it will be convenient for you. The only advice is that the earlier it comes, but the better it is for all of us to be able to get certain things done quickly. Yeah. So that'll be it on that point. Back to you, Engineer Secretary. Engineer Secretary, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. I was asking whether you have any closing remarks to give.
So I will thank each and everyone here. I mean, we've done well. The previous program we organized, we attended it well. This one too, we've done very well. You were here, all of us appeared. We did not, disgrace the executives. I'm sure our resource person is happy having seen about 30 plus members here. It's encouraging and that's good. And I'm sure we will all step out there and sell this information or this knowledge we've acquired with other people so that next time when we call for programs, people will join with the energy it deserve. We thank you all for being here. Honestly, we are not taking your time spent with us for granted. We appreciate that. It makes us happy as executives having organized this, and then we've seen that yes, we are getting value for the time we've put in to organize it. It makes us happy and gives us more energy to be able to plan more of this program going forward. So that will be it from my side, Engineer, Secretary, and team.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, engineers, engineer chair, all the executives that were present. We're really grateful. Please, we started with prayer, so I need a volunteer to give us the closing prayer so that we call it a day. Any volunteer? Please, can you hear me? Can you hear me,
Yes,
please?
we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Please, any volunteer for the closing prayer?
Okay. We are praying.
All right.
Almighty and everlasting Father, we thank you this evening for the gift of life, for a successful meeting, for the strength and bestowed upon us. We are grateful for all the good things happening around us, in our family, at our workplace. We pray, Lord Jesus, that whatever we've discussed here and plan to do shall be a success going forward. And in your hand, we commit our spirit, body, mind, and soul. Take care of us as a unit. Take care of us as a group. We give you glory and honor through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you all for coming once again. Have a wonderful evening. I wish you all the best. And to the candidates, congratulations once again.
Thank you. Thank you.